Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Green Burial Council's peer-to-peer forum. This month, the topic is providing green options, operations for existing funeral homes and cemeteries. So again, thank you for attending our peer-to-peer forum. The Green Burial Council is a volunteer organization, and without the support of our sponsors and generous donations, this free event may not be possible. So if you find this information valuable, please consider donating. The QR code on the screen will link to our donations page on our website, but I will also go ahead and drop it in the meeting chat. This is also a good time to say that if you have questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and drop those in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we will open it up for questions from the chat and give Rachel a chance to answer those. So without further ado, I will go ahead and introduce Rachel. Rachel Essig is a 16-year veteran cemeterian who has managed 14 historic municipal cemeteries, an SCI combo funeral and cemetery, and a private combo nonprofit cemetery and for-profit funeral home. She has served on the Cemetery Association of Oregon Board of Directors and as their legislative committee chair, the Green Burial Council Board of Directors, and the Friends of Lone Fir Cemetery and the Lone Fir Cemetery Foundation Board of Directors in Portland, Oregon. Rachel will share their experience in operations of hybrid conventional and green burial cemeteries and funeral homes, how to market to your community, how a green burial works, and how to offer green funeral options, and most importantly, consumer trends towards green burial options nationwide. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, and we can go ahead and get started.
Hi, everyone. So some of the information I'll be sharing today is from Riverview Cemetery in Portland, Oregon, that I managed for 5 years. They've been offering green burial options in their funeral home and cemetery since 2009. I'm really happy that you've taken the time out of your busy schedules and hope that my presentation will help you in your journey to add green options to your existing funeral and cemetery business. Thanks, Stephanie. So our learning objectives for today, I'm going to go over some consumer trends towards green burial practices, how to market green burial to potential consumers, how to run a green funeral home, and how to open and close green burial graves. All right, so let's begin with a quick primer on green burial. Natural burial, and you'll hear me interchange those terms, green burial, natural burial, they're the same. Natural burial is a traditional way of burial pre-industrialization, and the folks buried in pioneer cemeteries had green burials, which probably looked very similar to what we're doing now in natural burial. Those two words are going to be used interchangeably. In 2009, a national certifying organization, the Green Burial Council, was developed to help raise awareness and make the standards for green burial cemeteries, products, and funeral homes. This is an opt-in dues-paying organization, and there's having the certification of Green Burial Council would be very similar as having certified organic or certified gluten-free next to your branding. And that's one important thing, but also the standards and the camaraderie that come together in being a Green Burial Council provider. So this is a 2021 Kate Boylston American Funeral Director survey. That 84% of respondents said that they would consider green burial if it was offered. That's a pretty high percentage and something all of us in funeral service should be paying attention to. And I think that we've all heard in our industry where funeral directors, cemeterians alike wish they would have been paying a little bit more attention back when cremation started to gain popularity and been ahead of the curve in providing cremation services to their clients, being ahead of the game on how to work with their clients. Well, now is the time to get behind the wheelhouse of green burial, as clearly consumers are more and more interested in having this as an option. So this is the same survey. Respondents overwhelmingly chose environmentally friendly burial options, followed by biodegradable caskets. One going to, and then, sorry about this, I got ahead of myself. So anyhow, the movement is growing. I wanted to point out the images. That's where I got ahead of myself. So it doesn't have to look much different, right? It does, these images right here, they don't look much different than what you are doing with a conventional burial. You've got a biodegradable casket going into a coach. You've got a biodegradable casket up in a chapel for all ready for a service. This is another survey, 2022 Choice Mutual Insurance. I encourage you to read the article and the survey. The link is right on the slide there. What's eye-opening about this are our future customers. Millennials and Gen Z, I've circled those age groups right there. They're paying attention to the environment. We see that with Greta Thunberg and the environmental movement that she's been able to organize. These young folks have boomer and Gen X parents, and more we're seeing them in the arrangement room with their parents who are planning their funeral, or we see them helping to make the funeral arrangements at the time of need. They have influence in their population. This is really important. Their population, millennials and Gen Z, outnumber baby boomers and Gen X. So definitely an age group that we need to pay attention to, and an age group that we also need to be catering to. So this is a no-brainer. At Riverview, natural burial represents 1/3 of their business. Their natural burial customers are more hands-on. There's more ritual, they spend more time at the graveside, and there's some emotional value for them. Their interment rights and funeral plan fees are the same, meaning conventional and green burial, they charge the same regardless. So they want to make the choice easy for the family. They do have a surcharge for extra labor involved for the care of the natural burial grave, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So now I'm going to move on to what it's like to market. How do you market this, right? And think that some folks in our profession might be a little bit nervous, not know how to talk about it. But really what we're talking about isn't that much different than how we talk about conventional burial. So here's Riverview Cemeteries webpage that discusses natural burial. As you can see, they talk about a person's values in the environment and having a simple, friendly service. They point out that unlike other cemeteries who only allow natural burial in one section of the cemetery, that at Riverview, they offer natural burial throughout the entire cemetery, mixed in with conventional vaulted burials. This is Riverview's funeral home website, and as you can see, they have a page that is not much different than a funeral home would have for conventional burials. They have images of caskets, but instead these are biodegradable caskets. They explain preservation by using refrigeration, dry ice, or non-toxic embalming methods. They state that the memorial folders and printed material are printed on recycled paper, and they offer reception services using local caterers who provide natural organic foods and fair trade coffee. So they're building that brand around the environment and what they can offer to the public. Next, I'm going to go through some ads from Riverview. This first one is a lunch and learn that they hosted online during the pandemic. In this webinar, they discussed their environmental selections of green burial and aqua cremation. They also discussed new cemetery inventory development, which is a natural burial meadow, to meet the increased demand for green burial in their cemetery. And there were two options for this webinar, and both were highly attended with over 70 webinar participants each. So definitely there was curiosity by the general public on what green burial is, and they were motivated enough to join on a webinar and listen to what a funeral home and cemetery had to say. So here's another ad to build upon the views of Mount Hood, which this is straight from, you can go to Riverview Cemetery and see Mount Hood in its glory. And their new development section that I mentioned before oversees Mount Hood. In the ad, they state that they offer natural burial, and conventional flame cremation. They intermix their offerings and of conventional and green. They don't segregate them in their messaging, in their advertisements. So here's a few more ads. The one on the left, they are intermixing what they offer. Plan the best party you'll never attend. We have a broad range of services and options to fit your budget and vision, from flameless aqua cremation and green burial to conventional cremation and burial. Then below and in between the line separators, they list out all that they have to offer: natural burial, aqua cremation, conventional burial, flame cremation, urns, niches, crypts, mausoleum, columbaria, memorial benches, cenotaph engraving, and cremation scattering. So that's a wide range of things that they offer. And I think that also speaks to what we're seeing more and more, where people want to have choice, they want customization, they want to make it their own. So this operator right here is really showcasing everything that they have. And again, they're not segregating what's green and what's conventional. They might call it out in words, but the ad speaks for itself. It's one cohesive message. The full page article on the right was developed for their 140th anniversary as a cemetery. In this article, they write about the environmental quality of the cemetery: 7 deforested acres of deep canyons and year-round streams, resident bald eagles and deers, 23 species of mammals, amphibians, and birds. Then they talk about environmental stewardship and environmentally friendly cemetery options. So they got most of this data from the City of Portland Bureau of Environmental Services and the local Soil and Water Conservation District. So that's a good point for you. Cemeteries are a refuge for habitat. Maybe reach out to your local extension service or municipal environmental department to see if they'd like to do a study on your cemetery or monitor the habitat within your cemetery. And that could give you some really good data to share with the public. So this is straight from the Green Burial Council's website on funeral home certifications. To certify your funeral home, it's fairly easy. You need to define green burial on your general price list, make reference on your website, mention sanitation and temporary preservation, and let your customers know you will assist in a private visitation or public viewing without chemical embalming, and that the funeral home must carry 3 Green Burial Council approved burial containers as well. And that's pretty much it. So again, I wanted to call out these photos. I know I'm repeating them, but I think that they're pretty cool. This does not look or feel much different than what you're doing in conventional burial. You can still do all the same things. There's just slight tweaks that need to be made in order to offer green burial services to your community. So this is a decedent that was served at Riverview. Here's a loved one where the funeral director helped the family at their home. The family dressed their loved one and shrouded her. And then later, the family assisted in her burial. And I'll get into that in a little bit about the certification of a cemetery, but that's one thing you'll need to allow is the family to help with the interment of their loved one. So this is Riverview's GPL for burial packages. As you can see, they're complying with the Green Burial Council certification requirements and have information about them and that Riverview adhere to their standards. This gives their clients peace of mind knowing that they take care of the environment, that they take the environment seriously and are certified by a recognized organization. As the slide states, just as if we ask the client if they'd like cremation or burial, we describe and ask if they would like conventional or natural burial. This is from the Green Burial Council's website and what is needed to be a certified hybrid cemetery. So you might be wondering, what is a hybrid cemetery? So Green Burial Council has 3 certification categories for a cemetery, but if you're adding to Green Burial to your existing cemetery, then you would become a hybrid. The other 2 certifications are natural burial ground and conservation burial. I'm just going to focus on hybrid burial ground right here. A hybrid cemetery is a cemetery that has conventional vaulted burial and green burial. Many of the Green Burial Council hybrid providers had an existing cemetery with conventional burial and added green burial to their offerings. You can do the same. To certify, you'll need to represent the earned level of certification on marketing materials and also in the ways that you communicate with the public. You would need to allow the family and clients to participate in the burial and ritual process. You would need to accept decedents who were not embalmed or been embalmed by Green Burial Council approved non-toxic chemicals. This would be from the supplier champion. No use of vault or bottomless vault, and you would need to use biodegradable containers and shrouds only. You would need to develop a maintenance and operations manual for staff, contractors, and volunteers that include goals, policies, and procedures. And you must have an endowment care fund. So at the Green Burial Council, we have experts who can help you along the way develop some of these materials and source some of the products. So to recap, green burials, no concrete, plastic, or fiberglass vaults, no embalming, or you would use the Green Burial Council certified embalming fluid, use biodegradable materials, and it's a good suggestion to have limited use of electric or gas-powered equipment, such as mowers and weed whackers, and also limited use of fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. So I love this illustration because it shows you what's going on below ground. And this is what a hybrid cemetery looks like. This is what it looks like at Riverview. So you have your conventional and green burial that can be next to each other. Above ground, you would never know that one grave was a vault and the other one was a biodegradable casket. Memorialization is still the same. Instead of a vault sale, they have a surcharge, which goes directly to the cemetery. They're not sharing the revenue with the supplier. They have that surcharge, it goes right to the cemetery. And clients understand that once you explain it to them. They understand that and they see the value of that sale, that purchase that they're making, that the proceeds are going right back into the cemetery. So how is it done? How does Riverview prepare their grave? So the specifics. The grave is dug to 3.5 feet deep and just slightly longer and wider than the casket or lowering board. You don't want it too deep because you don't want desiccation to happen. If it's too deep, you're not, you need to get in that upper level of the soil. Then straw is placed at the bottom of the grave and also over the decedent when no casket is being used. A layer of compost materials placed around and over the casket or straw with the shrouded remains. And they backfill as usual, and then they replace the sod. So how does it work, right? So you're like, what? 3.5 feet deep, you're not opening the grave in this big square or rectangle shape. So you're gonna want to help the decomposition happen. And that's contact with the elements, soil, water, microbes, air, in the right balance. Too much water, you have an anaerobic environment. Too much air, you have desiccation. Too many microbes, never. No or minimal preservatives, it kills microbes. Biodegradable packaging, it helps feed microbes, minimizes cemetery maintenance. Burial with a bottomless vault or liner is not a natural burial. So is using machinery a big no-no in green burial? No, not at all. While hand digging may seem the most green, many cemeteries are very busy with 2 to 3 or more burials a day. So there's like a time commitment when you're hand digging. You're not going to be able to like open 3, 4, 5 graves in a day. Then there's worker safety, unworkable land that requires machinery. So you can use a backhoe to open and close a grave. The fact that you're offering a green burial alone is enough to help reduce the environmental impact of funerals and interments. So I'm wrapping it up here. Just want to say families are more hands-on at green burials. You'll find that there's more ritual. You can see how these families have adorned the graves. Um, And these families have a better experience and they're more likely to refer others to your funeral home and cemetery because you're allowing them to grieve and say goodbye to their loved one in a way that's more meaningful to them. And I think that's pretty special. And I think once you start offering green burial to your customers, you will find that they are very, very happy, satisfied clients. So thank you for attending the Green Barrel Council's peer-to-peer forum. Again, the Green Barrel Council is a volunteer organization. Without the support of our sponsors and your generous donations, this free event may not be possible. If you found this information valuable, please consider giving us a donation. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. I couldn't find the unmute button real quick, so thanks for
Okay.
chiming in for me there. Yeah, so the QR code again links to our website, but I also popped the link in the chat. And then this is Rachel's last slide that gives both the Green Burial Council's information and her information specifically. I haven't had any questions come across the chat yet, but the chat is open for questions. We still have a good half hour. So if you have any questions for Rachel, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And we will go ahead and answer them.
Folks are being shy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we've got one. If someone has chosen assisted death, oh, okay, we've got a couple coming in now. If someone has chosen assisted death, are the chemicals harmful to the environment?
Oh, so the earth is acting like a filter, right? So not even an assisted death, but we would get decedents that perhaps went through chemotherapy, they were a cancer patient, etc. The earth is a really, really good filter, and we definitely allow green burial of people that have gone through chemotherapy treatment or assisted death.
We had another question asking, I missed the first part of the session. Will there be a recording? And I'm just saying, yes, we post the recordings to our YouTube page, usually within a couple of days, and they are also linked to our website as well. Rachel, in your experience, how hard is it to turn a regular cemetery into a green cemetery?
Well, it's not hard at all. You're still offering the same service. You're offering an earth burial. The only difference is you're not using a vault. So it's pretty easy to do, and I think that once the community around you learn that you're offering green burial, you'll find that the people will be signing up, and it won't be that hard at all. There's a little bit of explaining that might have to happen in the arrangement room. But certainly that I think the beauty of having a conventional cemetery, I use the word conventional because green green burial is regular in the rest of the world. It's just something here in the United States that we have these vaulted burials. Um, and green burial is something that our Jewish, Muslim, and Baha'i faith have done for centuries. Um, but anyhow, the beauty of a hybrid cemetery, conventional burial and green, is that you're giving a choice to people. You're really meeting the consumer right where they're at.
Kind of on that note, what you were saying related to different religious customs. Question. So my state hasn't fully legalized natural burial yet, Iowa. Though I know there are some natural burial cemeteries around that are permitted to do so for religious customs, for example, Muslim. Anything I can do to aid legislature going through?
Wow, that's surprising, but great that that you're willing to perhaps take the charge on that. I think, one thing, really good resource is our website. That's the greenburialcouncil.org. You'll find quite a bit of information on there on how to talk to your politicians. I would start off perhaps making outreach to whoever your state representative is or your state senator and just starting to have the conversation. Read up on the material that's on the Green Burial Council's website and explain to them that, this is green burial is something that's been going on for centuries and centuries and around the world. It's just that in the United States, we're a little odd on how we conduct our burials, and explain to them that, it doesn't have to be just to these religious groups, that, some people might even say that the environment is their nature. Mother Earth is their nature. So I wish you all the luck, and please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't aware that any states had specifically didn't allow for green burials.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to go read up on what's going on.
Yeah.
What?
Um, is the surcharge for green burials at Riverview typical across the industry?
It's really up to each cemetery. There is some, but this is true for any burial because even conventional vaulted burials, there's some settling that happens if the grave wasn't opened and closed properly. But we do need to go back and check on those graves and add more topsoil, and reseed it from time to time. And that's why we have the surcharge. But it's really up to each cemetery. Some cemeteries might charge more for a green burial grave than a conventional burial grave, and that's one way that they recoup it. At Riverview, they decided to have the surcharge and call it out separately.
Andrew asked, how much does Riverview charge for their surcharge? The image showed a conventional burial next to a green burial. Do those spaces butt up to each other, or are there spaces between each space?
That's a great question, Andrew. Boy, it's been a while since I don't work at Riverview anymore. I want to say that it's $4.95 for the surcharge, but don't hold me to it. Um, and then in the image of them being together, yes, that's true. But you have to remember they're not opening the grave as wide. Um, or what do I want to say? Yeah, they're not opening the grave as wide, perhaps as the conventional burial. They're opening it to just a little bit bigger and wider and longer than the body. But yeah, they are right next to each other.
Um, Jessica said, so it's up to the organizations to make the decision to do this. Jessica, I think make the decision to offer natural burial or green burial, I'm assuming. Yes. So it's up to the organization to make that decision, Rachel.
Yeah. hmm Yeah,
Yes.
this would
Oh,
be voluntary.
um, Maddie asked, do you still mow and keep the conventional aesthetic for the green burial plots?
Yeah, yeah, we do. In fact, if you could go, there's a slide with a grave that's open. That
Where?
one. That's Riverview. Um, they mow just like any other cemetery. It looks, you really don't know where the conventional burials are at versus where the green burials are at.
I guess I will say Rachel touched on this too. At the Green Burial Council, we certify three types of cemeteries, and Rachel focused on hybrid cemeteries in this presentation. There are cemeteries that are 100%, green burial, and that may not go and backfill the soil, that may just, let it settle as is and may not mow and do that sort of thing. But that's a different type of cemetery that's really focused on like land conservation. But you can backfill, mow, maintain it just like you would a conventional cemetery. Laura asks, are there particular kinds of advertising and outreach that anyone has found to be effective? It's one thing to respond to families that show up requesting green burial. It's another to promote green burial. I'm currently looking for ways to build awareness because there's a pervasive belief that it's not legal or available.
Yeah. Yeah. So at Riverview, like the lunch and learn that I mentioned, that's basically it's getting out there and presenting to the public. Either have an open house at your location, or maybe do a talk at a library, um, or any other venue, and give a presentation on green burial. There is on our website a presentation that people can download and use themselves that talks about green burial. You could probably modify it to add images of your own cemetery. But really it's just getting out there and informing people. It looks like Sam Perry, who is one of my fellow board members, has a comment.
Hey there, Rachel. I just wanted to pop on and say that in no state is green burial explicitly outlawed, um, but sometimes there's not community infrastructure there. Um, and a great way to advocate is by creating community infrastructure. So for instance, the Muslim faith and the Jewish community, they have a community of people who work to uh, bring their death care, including religious, but also through the funeral industry. So by finding the funeral homes, the cemeteries that are accepting of green burial, but maybe aren't certified yet by the Green Burial Council, finding them and connecting them to this idea and kind of motivating your community through that way, because but I just wanted to emphasize that it's not explicitly illegal in any state at this time. So
Great, thank you.
yeah, no
Yeah, I
problem.
guess I would check on that one in Iowa. I would wonder, there are sustainable burial practices such as like natural organic reduction and some of the other sustainable burial practices that are not legal in
Yeah,
every
that's a good
state.
point. Great
But
point. That's a great point too.
yeah, but as far as that, yeah, as far as like Sam said, green burial is, um, and so I guess I would look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm
Um,
not as familiar with Iowa, so maybe there's currently conversations there that make it feel outlawed or
yeah,
but
or
and my in my experience, I haven't found them to be outlawed. And
I would be
there,
surprised if it is.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
and there are some states that are getting into stronger conversations about this as well,
right.
where it could feel like it's outlawed, but it's not.
And
Um,
I just wanted to follow up really quick with Laura Adamo on her question. Laura, please feel free to email me. I can share more information about marketing and like what collateral you can use and how to make outreach about green burial.
Okay, Christina asked, the cemetery, or kind of said, but I think it's a good question. The cemetery and organization that I work for does not believe green burials are profitable and thinks if we offer green burials, we will not make any money. I don't know, Rachel, if you want to
Yeah.
speak to kind of the options that are there.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just as profitable as conventional burial. In fact, you know, with green burial, you're not having to haul around a heavy vault and tear up your turf. Uh, so in that respect, like the cost of burials slightly cheaper. They're afraid of losing that vault sale, but if you're pricing your green burial graves the same as your conventional burial graves, you think about that. Pricing your green burial graves the same as your conventional burial graves. There's no losing profit there. The only thing they might be worried about is losing profit on that vault sale. But if you come up with a surcharge or something, which you're going to want anyhow to help maintain the grounds, right? And Christina, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to kind of email back and forth to help make the case where you're at, but it's just as profitable as conventional burial. And I see that you've got another question about requirements of green burial in regards to the type of land and proximity to water. So if you've got an existing cemetery, you should be set to go. There are on greenburialcouncil.org's website, there is some information if you're developing a green burial cemetery that you'll find very helpful.
Yeah, I think something I've heard on some of our other conversations as well is with a green burial cemetery, the family tends to want to be more hands-on, and there can be some added um, ceremony that can be
Ceremony,
built into
right?
fees. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, we were discussing that before I left Riverview. We were discussing that because they do take longer, those burials, because the people hang out a little bit longer. So we were looking at having an added time fee, if you will.
Christina commented they're afraid of losing niche and mausoleum sales.
Yeah, that's, you know what, with the growing cremation rate, they're not going to lose their niche sales. Mausoleum sales, you know, I've managed 16 cemeteries and all I've seen is fewer and fewer mausoleum sales occurring. I really don't know what to say about that. It's understandable. I do have some advice on how to increase your mausoleum sales because it's an all-in-one package. So it's, you know, how are you going to talk to your client family about purchasing mausoleum sales? You know, some people don't like to be dirty. They don't want to have dirt around them, right? So mausoleums enclosed. Some mausoleums are heated and cooled depending on the weather. There's usually a bathroom. There's running water. You're out of the elements. You don't, it's all in one, right? So anyhow, I could go on and on about how you could market the differences. And if you noticed on the marketing, the ads that I showed, we advertised all of them at Riverview. When I was at Riverview, we advertised everything we offered.
And so I was trying to go back. Was that this slide?
One more, a couple more,
Okay.
more.
Sorry.
Yeah, right there, the one on the left. It's
Okay.
right there. They list everything that they offer. And it's really up to the choice of the client. We're not, we're not the ones choosing.
Mhm.
We need to meet where the clients are at instead of telling the clients what they should have.
I have a question, I guess, maybe on that. Is it hard if you want to offer all of the above strategy, is it hard to maintain all of the above or infrastructure for all of the above?
Well, I mean, like with a place like Riverview, it's 141 years old now. So the infrastructure was already there. It grew over time. Um, so starting out new, that would be completely different. But
Okay.
assuming that the people on this webinar are already have existing operations, then it's not that hard. And green burial, like I said, it's no different than conventional burial. You're just not hauling around a vault. I'm
Okay.
reading some of the comments in the chat. Darren's got a good point.
Yeah,
Back
what
to
you had
those,
said.
yeah, back to those lunch and learns. I remember giving a lunch and learn. It was called Cremation Choices. And we were going to just focus on cremation. We're going to talk about aqua cremation and flame cremation. And we thought that that's where the discussion was going to go. And I think we did like 3 of them in a week. And I wound up having people that already wrote contracts with Riverview for flame cremation attend because they heard that we had green burial and they wound up rewriting their contract from direct flame cremation to natural burial, actually spent more money because that was more in line with their values. They only selected direct flame cremation because they thought that that was the environmentally friendly thing to do. And then once they learned about natural burial, once they listened to us, they bypassed cremation altogether and they just focused on natural burial and rewrote their contracts with the cemetery. Let's see. Yeah, Laura Adamo is right that I think a lot of people who would prefer green burial end up choosing a basic cremation. So it's not like funeral homes are capturing profit by refusing to accommodate. Yeah, that's spot on.
Okay. We still have a few minutes. If anybody has any other questions they want to put in the chat, feel free.
I'm gonna drop my email.
Yes, I can put that back up on the screen as well. Rachel's email is on the screen, but she is gonna
Mhm.
put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. And if I don't know the answer, I can track somebody down that can help out.
Also, I will say our info at account does go to our business administrator, and she can direct you to one of our board members as well. If not, if you have questions just in general for the council or for the organization.
Well, this is
Okay.
great. I really appreciate all the really good questions and the attention that you gave today. And again, feel free to reach out. And it was a pleasure having you.
Yes, thank you all for attending. We will have the recording up usually in a couple days. And we will see you all hopefully at the next one, which will be the next peer-to-peer is quarterly. So that will be what, July? April, May, June. Yes, July.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.